In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, Christ is in our midst. In 1954, there was a young boy named Athanasios in Greece, and he was in an area where he went outside and he saw this elderly woman who was in the ground, and she was doing prostrations on the ground in 3 different sections on the ground. And he saw her, and he said, to his parents, he said, there's some yaya outside and she's doing prostrations, and I don't quite know why she's doing that. The mother didn't say anything except, well, let's see what's going on. And they go back and there's nobody there. He has a dream that the same woman comes to him, and this time she has a crown. And she says to him, where I was doing prostrations, I want you to tell the people to dig, and there they will find me. And the woman had a crown, and he said, I don't know who you are. It's Yaya, who are you? And she said, the Son of God that you love so much, I am his mother, the Virgin Mary. So the young boy, being of pure heart, goes and tells the people to dig in that area, and they looked at him and said, a little boy telling us to dig in the ground for what? And 8 years went by without digging. And the people had an issue where their animals started to die from some sickness. And they realized that the sickness could have come from their disobedience to God, so they turned to God in prayer. And they turned to the Virgin Mary in prayer. And later, about a year later, when they were building a road, they asked the bulldozer, since you're digging the road, why don't you dig in this area where this boy, now who is a teenager, was telling us to dig? So they dig and they find the icon of the Virgin Mary of Eleusa. The church was built on that area, and the priest who ended up building the church and the monastery and becoming the abbot at the monastery was none other than the young boy Athanasios, who became a priest. Thousands of people have received the answers to their prayers, miracles from that icon. Miracles of bearing children. Over 1,500 couples have come there asking to bear children, and were granted that blessing. Others have received their sight. Others have walked again. Others have been cured of demons. There's so many miracles. But the first miracle that was given was denied by the people. It was pushed back, causing the miracles that were to come for the many years to be held off until obedience to God could come, until people would listen and realize that their depravity, their sickness, was not just from ignoring the miracle and the calling to dig, but it was putting their prayer life in the back seat, not focusing on God. So we see that this miracle of this young boy and this calling from this pure heart that had nothing to gain but to only communicate the words of the Virgin Mary to the people was the voice in the wilderness, as St. John used to say, I am a voice in the wilderness calling out for people to change, to receive the mercy and the love of God. This miracle that happened to this young boy, this vision of the Virgin Mary, not once, but twice, and then his ultimate dedication and service to that church, to the icon of the Virgin Mary and the blessings and the miracles of the Virgin Mary were just the beginning of the opening of God's grace, but it was held back by the people. We have to hear what God is calling us all to do, not be held back, and not to doubt when God asks us to do something that may seem out of the ordinary. It may seem bold. It may seem impossible in the face of opposition. We have to respond to him and realize that he has no other intent for us than to help us, than to save us. And the Virgin Mary, thousands of miracles that started in the mid-60s and on to this day were held back for 8 years because people didn't want to listen to the mouth of a soul that was pure. Listen to the words of the church, to the writings of the church fathers, to those innocent children who may be even calling you to make the change in your life. And realize that if you are at the bottom, if you are bottomed out in your life, whether your prayer life, whether from issues that you have with relationships with people, behaviors that we may have that take us away from our relationship with God, that all we have to do is start over and start digging within ourselves to uncover the beautiful icon of God that resides in each and every one of us. Even though it was in the dirt, even though it was buried for many years, going back to the iconoclastic controversy, hundreds and hundreds of years being buried. It now is gold-plated and silver-plated. It now has a beautiful church and monastery that is built around it. It now has become a place between Thessaloniki and Athens that is not just a town, but it is an area of pilgrimage. It is an icon that you will find in many places. Replicas in people's homes, in their cars, in their offices, everywhere, because of this merciful outreach to us that God has given. So what am I saying today to you? Is don't ignore the voice to dig within yourself. It takes work, it takes belief, and it takes many times years of effort to get to the point where the miracles of God start to work in you and where you become the workers of miracles to those around you. Dig inside. Realize that no matter where you're at the very bottom, somewhere close to the bottom, halfway, anything above halfway, we might be overestimating ourselves. But wherever we are, we need to realize that God is reaching out to us, not to hurt us, but to save us, to lift us up, to give us a new life, a life of hope, a life of mercy, a life of grace. Dig. Now is the time. Not tomorrow, not next year, not 8 years from now. But God is calling us on this day where we celebrate the name day of this icon, the feast of the icon of Panagia Eleusa, the merciful Virgin Mary. And dig inside yourself and reveal the icon of beauty that God has given us. He has made us beautiful beings, not by our looks, but by our insides, by our souls that came from Him and ultimately will return to Him. We are called to develop in Him, and finding Him inside of us is the first step to that development. Search for the icon. It's there, and you can find it.